Hi everyone, so today I'm going to be showing you how to change the oil on a 2001 Dodge Ram 1500. This is the 5.9 liter engine. So some of the things you're going to need before you get started are an oil filter. It takes 5 quarts of oil, so one of these 5 quarts is perfect for it. When you're picking out your oil, my owner's manual gives 2 recommendations, and it really depends upon what kind of temperature where you're typically driving. So for me, I'm in a much colder climate, so it recommends 5W30. For a much warmer climate, one that's typically always above freezing, in the southern states, it recommends 10W30 instead of the 5W30. I'm in a much colder state, and so I need the 5W30. So let's go ahead and get started. So my truck actually has a lift to it, so I don't need to jack it up. If your truck doesn't have a lift, you might need to jack it up to be able to get under and crawl under here. So the oil plug is actually pretty far back here. It's right there, right in front of the front axle if you have four-wheel drive, or right behind the front axle if you have four-wheel drive. So it's right there. It's a 5/8 bolt right there that you're going to need to loosen. So what I typically do is I'll break this seal here. So I won't completely undo the bolt. I'll break the seal and then take my ratchet away from here. Position your oil pan here to catch the oil. If I remember correctly, that just blasts out of there because she got 5 quarts trying to get out all at once. So just be ready for that. You may need to move your pan real quick so that it catches the oil. And then I always have a bunch of paper towels ready because you're probably going to get a little bit of oil on your hands. So go ahead and break that bolt and then take the bolt out and start draining it into your oil pan. So I actually didn't get a lot of oil everywhere. So what I meant by break that bolt is if you just put your ratchet on the bolt there and turn it even just a fourth of a turn, then you can do the rest by hand. And then, so once you have that out, you're going to let it drain and see how it's a constant stream. Once it's down to just a little dribble, just dripping out, that's when you can take a paper towel to it, wipe it off, and then put your oil bolt back in. So be sure to clean that off with paper towel real quick. Try and get any dirt and grime off of it. Sometimes these bolts will be magnetic, and so they'll collect metal scrapings. Not always, but some are like that. I don't think this one's like that. But anyways, go ahead and once this is down to a dribble, go ahead and clean it and put the bolt back in, because it's gonna constantly just keep dripping. I mean, it could sit for a day and it'll still just keep dripping. So go ahead and do that once it's done draining out here. So once you have that cleaned up and you put your bolt back in, you need to tighten the bolt down. Now I don't know the certain torque specification, but just try and put it on as tight as it was when you pulled it off. You just need to be real careful that you don't over tighten that, because if you over tighten it, then you're gonna have a constant drip from your oil bolt there. So make sure you tighten that back on, but again, don't over tighten it. So after you put the oil plug back in, next you're going to need to take the oil filter off. So the oil filter is just to the right or on the passenger side of the engine here, right under the oil pan. So these are usually put on hand tight, so hopefully you can pull it off by hand. Sometimes you need a tool to get them off, but hopefully you can get it off by hand. So go ahead and loosen that, and again, this one be ready for a bunch of oil to come out. So have your pan ready right underneath, and some paper towels ready, because you're probably going to get oil all over your hand on this one. So again, I was disappointed. Not a ton of oil came down like I anticipated. But anyways, once you get that off, go ahead and clean it all up. Wipe all that oil off, wipe it off where it's gotten on See how it's kind of dripped down, wipe all that off, and clean that up so it's not dripping all over the place. Now, there's a couple of tips and tricks that I've learned over the years to putting on an oil filter. Now, there's a couple of things that I've learned about putting on an oil filter, and I want to share those with you. So to start off, when you pull off that old oil filter, make sure that this rubber ring came with it. Now, sometimes these rubber rings will actually stay on your vehicle and not to the oil filter, so then you're stacking multiple of these rubber rings on top of each other if the old one's stuck. Which would obviously cause a leak. So make sure that that came with it. If it didn't, you're going to need a flat edge tool to scrape it off from the truck. Next, to make sure that that doesn't happen, what you can do is you take just a dab of the old oil. That's pretty dirty. Anyways, just run it along this ring here all the way around, and that'll prevent it from getting stuck. Once you do that, go ahead and screw this on onto your truck so that the oil filter is in place. Now, once you have it on, just go ahead and spin it, and you'll keep spinning it until right there. It's about where it stops on its own. So from here, you're going to turn it 3/4 of a turn past hand tight. So what I like to do is I like to do 3/4. So I make sure basically I'm getting this point here turned up to here 3 times over. So that's just 1, 2, and that right there is 3. So if you only do it 3/4 turn past hand tight like that, you shouldn't have any problems getting it off next time that you do an oil change. The rest of the oil change is relatively easy. Obviously clean up all of that dirty oil that you collected. Pretty much any auto parts store will have some type of recycling program, so you can take it there. Just give them a call, and they'll take your old dirty oil and they'll recycle it for you. Next, you need to grab a funnel, and you just pour in the 5 quarts into here. This is on the driver's side of the engine. So go ahead and put the 5 quarts in, and then once you've done that, the next thing that you do is you're going to want to start the engine. You can run it just a couple of seconds. Really, it's just to get the oil, dispersed throughout the entire engine. So run it for, 10, 20, 30 seconds, something like that, not too long. And then you can turn it off, and then go ahead and check your engine oil here, and to make sure that it's within the proper spec. So anyways, that is how you change the oil and oil filter on a 2001 Dodge Ram 1500, and this is the 5.9 liter engine. So hopefully that was helpful, and thanks for watching.